Hello there, my lovelies. Welcome back to my channel, Boomy Reactions. My name's Boomy, and thank you for watching. Now today, guys, we're going to be catching up with another history video. So this video has come in, this request has come in through Buy Me a Coffee, and this request is by Brian from the City of Steel, Pittsburgh. Yes. And Brian says, "Hi, Boomy. Greeting from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I just wanted to say that you're one of my favorite YouTubers." Oh, thank you so much. And I always really enjoy your videos. That's so kind, Brian. Thank you so much. It's very nice. My favorites are the Mr. Ballin ones. Mine too. And anything hysterical, absolutely. I wanted also to recommend a really good video that's based off true events, including the more ridiculous true events mentioned in the video. Oh, that's the best kind. You know, the funny things that actually did happen. It makes it even more comical. It's a history YouTuber called BlueJay, and he's known for the witty remarks and a very dark humour. Right up my street. The video is called The Dumbest Russian Voyage That Nobody Talks About. And I hope you have a wonderful day, Boomy, and look forward to your next video. Oh, thank you so much, Brian. You're too sweet. So, the dumbest Russian voyage that nobody talks about. Now, this has got to be, Brian, this rings a bell. Yes, I have seen another video on this. This has got to be, oh gosh, I hope I'm not wrong. So this has got to be the 2nd Pacific Squadron, hasn't it? Also known as the Baltic Fleet, they were, weren't they? The video that I watched was the Voyage of the Damned. And it's surely something like this couldn't be repeated. It's got to be referring to the same historical blunder. Oh my gosh, guys, I don't want to give any spoilers, but this is an absolute circus from start to finish. It's actually, it reminds me of like a tragedy play, because a comical tragedy play, because, oh, you just couldn't make it up. It actually sounds, doesn't it, Brian, like what actually happens in this series of events. It sounds like it's made up. Like, I struggled to believe that most of these things actually happened. Do you know, I'm not going to give any spoilers actually for those that haven't watched the other video. So let's just get straight into it. All I'm going to say is that be prepared for a laugh, because it's ridiculous. I actually just can't believe it happened. So I love hearing this story, and things like this happening are part of the reason I love history. You've got to laugh, haven't you? So you're in for a treat, guys. Let's watch the video. And if you're enjoying these reactions, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much, my lovelies. If you're interested, I have a Buy Me a Coffee account. That link is over here. And if you would like to help support my channel any further, I have a Patreon account. And if you want to check that out at all, that link is in the description below. Right, okay, get ready for a laugh, guys.
There are an abundance of iconic combinations out there, like spaghetti and meatballs, a sorority girl in a white Jeep, or depression and alcoholism. But like US presidents and convertibles, not everything can be a match made in heaven. And as much as Mother Russia would love to dominate the high seas, nearly landlocked nations and stellar navies don't exactly go hand in hand. But for all the Russian Navy's dismal, underwhelming, pathetic lack of glory in the early 20th century, it's always important to look on the bright side. Like how it gives me good YouTube content. So on today's episode, I'm going to learn you all about the misadventures of the Russian Baltic Fleet.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to learn you all. Yeah, so this was early 1900s, like 1905, I think. Gosh, brace yourself, guys. It gets funnier and funnier as it goes on. Oh, hi, BlueJay. Russia's kind of cool, right? That was a trick question.
It's the turn of the 20th century, and what better way to kick off a new era than expansion? Russia is cold, which is great for things like stopping Nazis and badass TikToks, but not ideal for ports. Having your port turn to ice every winter is what those of us more versed in nautical terms would call not very cash money. The Russian Empire notices China has a pretty nifty port with, get this, warm water. However, there's this pesky little thing called a border in the way. But that's okay. China isn't European. It's not a real country. So Russia takes control and gets the Qing to lease in the port. Japan doesn't like what they see, so they meet with Russia and are all like, "Hey, vodka boy, invading China is our thing." But Russia won't share, leaving diplomacy dead.
There's so many layers to that insult.
in the water. But that's okay. The new DLC just dropped and everyone's just itching to try out their new toys. So the Japanese attack Port Arthur, kicking off the Russo-Japanese War. Fast forward a few battles and the Russians are losing pretty badly. So the Tsar authorizes quite the preposterous proposal of sending the Russian Baltic Fleet to reinforce the east. And you may be wondering, but BlueJay, what's so preposterous about sending reinforcements? Well, kiddo, the Baltic part of Russian Baltic Fleet means it operates in, get this, the Baltic. And as we learned earlier, boats don't like ice, so you can't go this way to Port Arthur, meaning the Tsar authorized a plan for an 18,000-mile journey around the world, which is 29,000 kilometers, or 1,140,480,000 gumballs. The voyage was also a logistical nightmare, as the Russians didn't have any holdings in Africa or South Asia to refuel along the way. Add that to the fact that the fleet spent months at a time frozen in port, so the crew of mostly uneducated peasants couldn't tell you the difference between a bowline knot and a porcelain pot. This group of inexperienced conscripts was put under the command of Admiral Rozhitsvensky, a man so prone to anger that his staff made sure to keep a large supply of binoculars at the ready due to how often he would throw them overboard. But hey, fuck it, what better way to learn than a trial by fire, right? So they set sail on their epic quest to turn the tide of the war and bring glory to the motherland.
Yeah, so an awful lot of this fleet is manned by very inexperienced, generally younger men, because the older veterans are already out with the Navy, the Russian Navy, or you know, or they've been taken prisoner, or they've died in previous wars. So, you know, number one.
And immediately the flagship runs aground and a cruiser loses its anchor. While they waited for the flagship to refloat, a destroyer forgot friendly fire was on and rammed into a battleship, prompting it to return for repairs. Don't worry men, surely this can't be foreshadowing. As the fleet pushed on, a growing hysteria spread amongst the crew. They were afraid that at any second they'd be ambushed by Japanese torpedo boats.
Yeah.
By Denmark. This is where the war is if you forgot. But the crewmen didn't have
the paranoia just reaches new heights. Why would you assume that there were Japanese torpedo boats here, of all the places? You generally think, you know, one of the pros of going this really all the way around the world, literally, route was that you weren't going to encounter the Japanese, surely.
Time to worry about things as frivolous as logic. So when two fishermen approached the fleet to deliver a message, they opened fire. The two fishermen survived the false alarm without a scratch thanks to the horrible standards of the Russian gunnery. As for their message, they informed Rear Admiral Rozhitsvensky that he had been promoted to Vice Admiral. Iron this. This wouldn't be the only false alarm, as later another ship signaled that she was under attack by 8 Japanese torpedo boats, only to find out that there were 0 Japanese torpedo boats. There was just nothing there. Having survived the Baltic, our heroes made their way towards Britain, where they encountered a small group of fishing trawlers at Dogger Bank. Yeah, I think the ongoing pattern here is that I just don't think this Russian fleet they just didn't like fishing boats. It was just, there were no rules. They were fair game. They just fired at them. But surely by now our skittish sailors have learned their lesson. Ninjas! Strelietes bullshit! Chaos ensued as the Russians laid down hellfire upon the unsuspecting fishermen. The Russians are going bonkers. Some run around the deck aimlessly waving cutlasses to repel imaginary boarding parties, while others just cuddle up on the deck with life jackets, accepting their demise. There's one thing that struck me from the other video that I watched, which was it was a much longer video. I don't think the intention was to be comical, but the events are, they are laughable. And yeah, the recurring theme here is the paranoia. I'm convinced, I don't know what, I don't know why, I don't know how, but it's got to be drugs. What causes this level of hysteria and paranoia where they're literally waving swords around? What? Get up, men. These Japanese have horrendous aim, Igor. We haven't even taken a hit. But hey, at least this time we made sure they weren't fishermen first. Yeah, but they didn't get hit either. You haven't hit any part. We're shooting at fishermen, aren't we? Definitely a possibility, sir. Well, at least we didn't fire on our own ships, killing a sailor and Russian Orthodox priest. Yeah, at least. The British trawler fleet were sitting ducks as their nets in the water prevented a hasty escape, and the Russians fired at them for 20 minutes before realizing their mistake. While this sounds like the setup for a massacre, you forget our heroes are about as effective as a guy holding a fish on Tinder, sinking only one trawler and damaging 2 of their own ships. The battleship Oriole really captured the spirit of a TikTok pickup artist, reportedly shooting 500 shots without scoring a single hit. 2 fishermen and 2 Russians died in the mayhem, so at least the survivors can brag at the local pub that they tied with the Russian Navy. This event became known as the Dogger Bank incident and nearly ignited a war between Russia and Britain.
Yeah, so again, like strike number 2 here. Britain were not very happy about this, and you know, I think they narrowly avoided escalating things into a war with a country that they will shortly be allied with if they are not already.
Let's just settle for revoking their access to the Suez Canal, forcing the Russians to make a slight tweak in their course. The slow, coal-powered fleet made its way towards Africa, attacking more civilians and cutting underwater telegraph cables along the way. They met up with some German supply ships to refuel due to the aforementioned lack of African holdings to make port. What nice friends, those Germans. I'm sure the relationship will last. Africa's pretty big, almost as big as my self-loathing, so they took on double loads of coal and kept giant piles of the stuff just sitting on deck. Definitely the kind of thing to land you an EPA audit. But it's not like any sailors were going to die from black lung, except for the ones who did. Morale is low, so the Russian crew...
I think this video is actually doing a service in breezing over how ridiculous and comical some of these things actually are. Yeah, so they stockpiled coal. It turns out it's not very good for everyone on board. They had very few allied ports that they could that would allow them to refuel. So they had to just keep going for really, really long distances and stockpiling coal, which in turn, surely, isn't that going to add to the weight of the ship and then burn more fuel? No.
Crew decides to lift their spirits by treating themselves to the exotic pets of Madagascar. All right, man, you all can... Hey, Igor, stop sniffing glue for a sec, buddy. You all can go to shore and pick out one thing to bring back with you. Nothing too crazy, like snakes or crocodiles. What did I say? Sir, I can explain. Watch it throw back the shot at Tito's. The ship became a floating zoo as the crew brought on a bunch of animals to roam the deck freely, including a crocodile and a venomous snake, which apparently took a liking for vodka. Panic followed shortly when the snake wrapped itself around guns and bit a commanding officer.
Okay, another one. These details stick. They do stick in my memory because they're the most random things that you wouldn't need to remember. I remember the exotic pets did actually cause, I don't think fatalities. Did they cause any fatalities? They definitely cause injuries. They're just fighting. How stupid can you get? This is what happens when you take like a ship of young, inexperienced men. It's a party boat, isn't it? It's a party boat.
One sailor gifted the admiral a parrot, which soon took after his rather extensive vocabulary of Russian curses. The flagship soon became overrun with chameleons who would frequently go missing due to their ability to seamlessly camouflage. Hey Igor, have you seen Comrade Camo? I can't find the little guy anywhere. No, I don't think so. Have you seen him, Private? Yeah, I don't think he's seen him either. But a good zoo isn't complete without an underwater exhibit. And luckily for them, the cooling plant on their refrigeration ship broke down, forcing them to dump all their meat into the ocean and giving them a nice following of sharks. At one point, the fleet was holding one of many funerals for a sailor who died of illness. During the ceremony, the Kamchatka fired a gun salute. Excellent work, gentlemen.
Something.
Hey, say, you boys did make sure to load blanks, right? Yes, sir. Yeah. Igor, you're looking kinda pale there, buddy. After some more shenanigans, like foiling a mutiny and receiving a shipment of fur boots and coats instead of ammo, Admiral Rozhetsvensky realized that they were approaching Japan. Ah shit, that's right, I didn't train them. So he decided to run some gunnery practice on a stationary target. Miraculously, our group of misfits managed to score a single hit on the ship towing the target. But hey, potato potato. At long last, the Baltic fleet closes in on Japan, approaching the Tsushima Strait during the night. The fleet extinguishes their lights to maintain stealth, all except for the Orel, which, as a hospital ship, kept them burning in accordance with the rules of war. The Orel comes upon a Japanese ship in the dark. And finally, after an extensive list of false alarms attacking fishermen and merchants alike across half of the high seas, they come across an actual Japanese vessel. and determine it to be Russian, so they use their lights to communicate with it.
Smiley face.
The Battle of Tsushima ensues. While our gallant sailors hold their own against the Japanese, the Baltic fleet was decimated. 4,000 Russians die, with an additional 7,300 taken prisoner, compared to roughly 100 Japanese deaths. This effectively ended the war, marking the first time in history that an Eastern power defeated a European one. Way to go, buddy. Let's add that one to the scoreboard. Oh dear. So, in conclusion, the Russian Baltic fleet's odyssey around the world is a tale full of shenanigans and blunders, with our troublemaking peasant crew racking up quite the body count of innocent civilians and friendlies before seeing an actual enemy. And yes, while they may have attacked ships from practically every global power, disabled cities' communication grids, killed fellow sailors with gross negligence of safety practices, nearly ignited a major European war, and were about as accurate as Helen Keller playing laser tag, they also taught a snake to drink vodka. 9 out of 10 stars.
Yeah, it is blunderous. Doesn't really seem to really truly describe the actual incompetence of this entire mission. You could put it down to a number of factors. I think the biggest contributor to this is that, you know, all of their soldiers are, all of their seamen are very inexperienced. They're very young. They're daft. They want to drink, they want to party. They're going to do stupid things like fill the ship full of exotic animals. It's absolutely hilarious. But it tells a great story, doesn't it? A great sort of funny story. But stories like this are definitely the funniest element of history. And of course we learn from them. You know, you'd like to think that nothing like that would be repeated again. There's probably elements of it that have been repeated again, I'm sure. But I think it's such a funny story. I would love to know how is this story reported from like Russian propaganda? How what did the Russians make of it? Or how did they describe it? That's what I want to know. Did they cover it up? Did they just pretend it never happened and just don't talk about it ever again? Or did a lot of these details, did they not surface until years and years later? Maybe hoping that everyone would forget. Or I don't know. It was an absolute circus. Oh my gosh. Oh, Brian, thank you so much for requesting that video. It's one of my, I think it actually might be one of my favorite, like, you've got to say it's comedy. It's my favorite comedy factual story from history. And it didn't happen that long ago. I love it. Thank you so much for requesting this. Oh, this has brightened my day. It's cheered me up. It's given me a little laugh. I hope that's had you chuckling along to yourselves, guys. Take care of yourselves, my lovelies, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.